What basically happened is we began to look at what was going on. We faced some challenges in our district. The first challenge was that we weren't satisfied with our academic status quo. The number of students meeting the standards that we expected just wasn't high enough. There were also a large number of students who were exceeding our standards, and so we wanted to talk about how do we meet the needs of all our kids. We also recognize, that the world of education is changing, and it's changing significantly. The other challenge we had is that we've had some facility issues. Our facilities are in bad shape, they're not getting any better, and we have concerns about that. The other challenge that we have in this district is we're facing a very real demographic shift. Over the last 10 years, we've seen significant change in our student population. So let's start talking about academic concerns. In general, all polls show that school districts across the nation are struggling to improve. This is the #1 thing right now that's on almost everybody's lips other than Egypt recently. But really and truly, we're talking about a nationwide emphasis. And as you think about it, if we do the same things that we've done, we won't get the improvement that we need. So we have to do something differently. We must create a change to move our system forward. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, why we need to make a change. And whatever change we undertake should be supported by a system of best practices. In other words, we have to make sure that what we're doing is not haphazard, but is supported by best practice. So, there are also some social concerns we were looking at. First of all, our high school graduation rate is not acceptable. At 73%, it's just simply not acceptable. Our post-high school options are changing dramatically. I recently had a presentation here in this room given by the Economic Council for Spokane, the greater Spokane area, and basically what they're saying is the workforce is changing. High school graduation is absolutely essential, but the jobs in the future are really jobs around certificates, not necessarily diplomas. Diplomas will always work, but most of our kids will be employed in 2 to 2-year training career things or certificates. There's also social academic interaction that needs to be addressed. We know that the most important, or one of the most important things for learning is that our kids have a strong social connection to school and a strong social connection to their teachers. And so we want to address that through the maintenance of community schools. We want schools that are designed to be the hub of our community. Okay? So let's look at some data. Let's see if this works. Nope, still not working. All right, let's look at some data. Here are our 3rd grade reading scores, and I want to show you a couple of things here. The red line, this goes back 2005. The red line are those students who we pretty well know that without a really significant and major intervention, those students are not going to be successful. They're not going to graduate. We can tell you that right now, unless we do something significant. The yellow line are those kids we're probably going to get to success. Those are the kids who, with a little bit extra, we're going to get them across that bar. The green line are the number of kids who are successful, and the blue line represents those children who our teachers have taken to a higher level. Those kids, 38% of those kids, are at such a high level that they are probably being challenged in our classroom. So our teachers are sitting in a classroom now with kids who need a severe intervention and kids who need a severe intervention on the other side to excel. So let's look at the next slide here. Now we can go back to 1996 and look at reading grades. And what we can see when we look at the reading data is it doesn't change a whole lot. If we go back to the first date that we started taking, the 1996-97 was the first year that we started really recording WASL data. And that was a little bit of an anomaly, but then you see from 97 until last year, it's pretty consistent. We have some students who are struggling. We have some students who are going to get there. We have a good number of students getting across the bar, and then we've got a large percentage of students on the other end who need something else because our teachers have done such a great job of moving them forward. So, next slide, please. So the thing is, we haven't made significant progress by working around the edges. And we've tried all kinds of work around the edges. We've changed schedules. We've changed the curriculums. We've changed all kinds of things, and we haven't made a big difference in the basic makeup. I want to emphasize that the primary reason for change in the school district is academic. We're looking at improvement of academics and opportunity for kids, and that's the emphasis for this. And research demonstrates that for real change to occur, for real and substantial change to occur, 30 to 60% of the organization must change. It's not enough to work around the edges. If we just work around the edges, we're going to get the same progress we've had. And again, the model that we use for change should support our desired outcome. So what happened was we had a committee charged with improving academic outcomes. And this committee started out, first meetings were 50 or 60 people, and then they grew from there. And what happened is the committees came together, or the committee that actually managed to come together the most cohesively probably, didn't have a plan for reconfiguration. We went into this completely blind about what we were doing. We went into this about improving academic achievement for kids, looking at our facilities and looking at our demographics, but first academic outcomes. And the research showed, the research done by the committee showed, that the PK8 might be the best model. And there are an extensive list of articles and research on the website to support that. The board didn't accept that off the bat. In fact, the board argued about that. They rejected that offer. They went through a great deal of debate. They did their own research. They did a number of different things. And then finally, after about 9 months of work, they tasked the administration to move to a PK8 model. And so that's where we are right now. We are moving to a PK8 model. And again, that is based primarily on academics, secondly on demographics, third on facilities, and fourth on our past experience with the bond. So, the academic benefit of a PK8. Well, the research shows pretty clearly that students in PK8 models, when compared to 6 through 8 models, have higher academic achievement, reduced violence, reduced illicit drug use, a delay of sexual activity, better self-esteem, higher high school graduation rates, and higher college attendance rates. That's the research. All right? Now, there is one study I found that said if you really compare students to students, that you don't get the academic benefit. That if you really take it apart to the bottom level, we can argue that the academic benefit doesn't exist, but we still see higher levels of self-esteem, especially for girls. Kids feel safer, they have better relationships with adults, and maybe most importantly, students in PK8s do better in the 9th grade. So, even if we have no academic benefit, I will take those 3 things as sufficient to make the change. And then the other thing we know is that the 9th grade is a crucial year for student success in high school. Unless you're successful in 9th grade, you're not going to be successful in high school. And here's the kicker. And I would ask you to please, if you have this, bring it to me because we really want to find it. But we're unable to find any study that shows that a PK8 system is harmful for students or has a negative impact. In other words, there's no study out there. There's some argument about whether it's effective, but we cannot find any study that says it is negative or is harmful to kids. Let's talk about demographics. Our building enrollment is declining. In 1999, there were 4,686 students enrolled in our school district. And we operated a high school, 2 middle schools, 5 elementary schools, and some alternative schools. Okay? In 2009, there were 3,944 students enrolled, and we're operating the same number of buildings. That's 744 kids. That's 744 kids less in our buildings, and yet we're operating the same number of buildings. We're keeping the lights on in those buildings. We're maintaining those buildings. We're doing all of the things that we need to do to make sure that those buildings are operating. Our middle schools are too small. One middle school is 525 students, one middle school is 535 or 335 students, and the 335 student school is projected to get smaller. The consensus is it takes about 450 kids to run an effective middle school program. Below 450, you begin to lose efficiencies and you begin to lose the opportunity to offer a robust curriculum. The problem is that even if we closed a middle school and combined all the kids into one middle school, now we've got a middle school that's 860 kids. So we can't combine them because we get pretty large, and our facility, we don't have a facility to do that. But even if we spread them out evenly, we're too small to be effective. So our middle schools are exactly the wrong size. Our elementary schools are out of balance. Our smallest school has got 213 kids in it. Our largest school has 533 students in it. School size, there's a lot of debate. The general rule is that the smaller the better. However, the most recent research has found two things, and that is that school size needs to be thought of as an inverted U. That is, up to a certain point, school size actually increases the achievement of students, and then when you get to a certain size, that achievement begins to decline. The sweet spot for schools, according to some researchers, I'm not so sure I completely agree with this, is about 640 to 670 students. However, one thing that seems to be absolutely clear is that when students have some economic advantage, when we have kids who have economic advantage, they actually do better in larger schools than students who are economically disadvantaged. And students in economic disadvantage do better in smaller schools. And of course, we're exactly backwards. Our smallest school is arguably a school that has our highest economic advantage, and our largest school is our school that has our students most at need. So we're out of balance in a socioeconomic east-west setup. Okay, so that's demographics to a degree. In 2007, there was a study and survey